are deep inside a forest. There are mosquitoes and leeches galore. Water is available at a considerable distance, and there is no store selling food for miles. We thought we were in the middle of nowhere. What we found here are tents and implements and men hard at work. These men belong to the Forest Survey of India. The job they are doing is called the inventory of forest resources. These men have orders to locate points on the ground as per the coordinates given to them, lay plots at those points, and measure the trees, shrubs, climbers, and soil inside those plots. For 50 years, the Forest Survey of India has been the encyclopedia of India's forests. Its reports are considered authority by the government, the academia, and the citizens. How is a legend born? How does it grow? Welcome to the story of the Forest Survey of India. India, a mighty land of awe-inspiring size and diversity. It has the Himalayas in the north, with massive peaks perennially under snow. There are deserts, ravines, and coastlines stretching over several hundred miles. The diversity in geography is matched by the diversity in vegetation and wildlife. India is home to a vast spectrum of vegetation, from alpine pastures to tropical forests, from mangroves to thorn forests. The tiger, the one-horned rhino, and the elephant are among the magnificent animals that walk the trail in its forests. Since time immemorial, these forests have preserved an inimitable biodiversity that has excited the scientists, the conservationists, and the romantics from all over the world. Since Noah built his ark, the wood has been the constant companion of man. From the 19th century, the interface between man and forests became more intimate. Civilization spread beyond existing towns as populations grew and means of communication became better. More and more timber became necessary to build homes, lay railway lines, and construct ships. It became necessary to estimate precisely how much timber was available. Thus started the process of the scientific assessment of forest resources in India. The appointment of Sir Dietrich Brandis as the first Inspector General of Forests in India was a milestone in the history of Indian forestry. He formulated new forest legislation and helped establish the Imperial Forest School at Dehradun. Subsequently, the Forest Research Institute came into existence in 1906, ushering in the full-scale scientific forestry in the country. After India secured independence in 1947, the management of forests became a priority for the government. The first National Forest Policy came out in 1952. Realizing the crucial linkage between the assessment of forest resources and the establishments of forest-based industries in the country, the Government of India established the Pre-Investment Survey of Forest Resources in collaboration with FAO and UNDP to survey and estimate the forest resources of the country. This modest organization would become the forerunner to the Forest Survey of India.
Pre-Investment Survey of Forest Resources, a precursor to Forest Survey of India, was established in the year 1965 under the sponsorship of FAO and UNDP to undertake the assessment of forest resources in select areas of the country and the neighboring countries. Later on, in 1981, Forest Survey of India was established and given a national mandate to carry out inventory of forest resources, mapping of forest resources, as also to take special studies and to provide training in the field of forest inventory, remote sensing to the personnel of State Forest Department. Later on in 1987, the mandate of FSI was enlarged to carry out wall-to-wall mapping for the country as a whole using satellite-based remote sensing. We have been basically depending upon visual interpretation of satellite data till 1997, when we started making use of technique of digital image processing for interpretation of satellite data, and thus started the era of digital mapping in Forest Survey of India.
Presently, the Forest Survey of India carries the mandate of preparing state of forest report biennially, providing assessment of latest forest cover and monitoring changes in these, growing stock in forest and trees outside forest of the country, carbon stock in India's forest, and several other informations. Conducting inventory in forests and trees outside forests to develop database on all forest tree resources. Preparing thematic maps on 1:50,000 scale, functioning as a nodal agency for collection, compilation, storage and dissemination of spatial database on forest resources. Conducting training of forestry personnel in application of technologies related to resources survey, remote sensing, GIS, etc. Strengthening research and development infrastructure in FSI, and to conduct research on applied forest survey techniques. Supporting state and union territory forest departments, SFD, in forest resources survey, mapping and inventory. And undertaking forestry related special studies, consultancies and custom-made training courses for SFDs and other organizations on project basis. The headquarters of the Forest Survey of India are situated in the picturesque city of Dehradun. The organization has 4 zonal offices at Shimla, Kolkata, Nagpur and Bangalore, giving it the organizational reach to survey forests across the length and breadth of the country. The most recognized product of the Forest Survey of India is the biennial State of Forest Report. The report is an assessment of the nation's forest cover and growing stock based on the interpretation of satellite data and intensive inventory exercises. Over the years, the FSI has not only refined its methodology, but added key information inputs such as production consumption studies and assessment of carbon stock to enhance the value of the report. The assessment of forest cover is presently based on an interpretation scale of 1:50,000, along with improved spatial resolution, which makes it possible to capture forest cover patches up to an area of 1 hectare. The forest cover is classified as 3 density classes of very dense forest, moderately dense forest and open forest. Degraded forests with density less than 10% are categorized as scrub.
We started the forest cover mapping exercises, and the first report on State of Forest Report India came out in the year 1987. Since then, we have completed 12 cycles, and the work for the 13th cycle is in progress. We started with Landsat data on 80-meter spatial resolution with scale of mapping as 1:million scale, and the minimum mappable area was 400 hectares. Then we switched over to 1:250,000 scale, wherein the minimum mappable area was 25 hectares, and now we have switched over to the scale of mapping as 1:50,000, and the minimum mappable area is now 1 hectare and above.
However, to know the forests from the satellite is not enough. Therefore, the field crews from FSI walk and measure the forests to assess the volume of wood growing in these forests and to collect other related field parameters.
The forest inventory is conducted to generate qualitative and quantitative information about forest resources of the selected area. The pre-investment survey of forest resources was initiated to have information about availability of raw material for wood based industries. The forest inventory in selected areas was continued till 2001. Thereafter, the sampling design was redeveloped and National Forest Inventory was launched in 2002. In forest area, 7,000 sample plots are laid out every 2 years. The information generated therefrom is the regular feature of the India State of Forest report.
Forest inventory is carried out by field observations in selected sample plots. The field work for forest inventory starts by laying down the sample plots on the ground, followed by the enumeration of trees in this plot. In a part of the sample plot, the other attributes of the trees such as the crown width, the height and bark thickness are also recorded. Over the years, the inventory has been modernized and now the plots are located with the help of a GPS. The National Forest Policy envisages 1/3 of the geographical area of the country under forests. However, given the demand on land to meet the growing needs of the nation, it is difficult to earmark such a large chunk of land for forest use alone. Therefore, the trees growing outside forests, TOF for short, as along roads, canals, railway lines, and on village common lands are vital to meet the central objective of the National Forest Policy. FSI has been actively engaged in the estimation of TOF for nearly a decade.
Assessment of trees outside forest, that is TOF, is very important as a large demand of industries and the society in terms of timber, fuel wood, fodder is being met from the trees outside forest. As a result, the pressure on our natural forest has reduced to a large extent. FSI started TOF inventory in early 90s and since then we are continuously doing TOF inventory. The TOF inventory is carried out simultaneously with the forest inventory in 60 randomly selected districts spread over the entire country. We collect the data on about 10,000 sample plots from the entire country. There are three important outcomes of TOF inventory. The first, it gives the growing stock, that is total volume outside the forest area according to species and diameter class wise. Second, it gives the tree cover which comprises of small tree patches in the form of block, linear and scattered, which are less than 1 hectare in extent and are not covered in the forest cover area. Third, it gives production of timber from TOF which we supply to Central Statistical Organization for calculation of GDP.
The TOF assessment is carried out by using high-resolution remote sensing satellite data from NRSC followed by the field inventory. The data collected in the field is stored in a relational database prepared in Microsoft SQL Server. The data processing is carried out by well-qualified and experienced data processing staff after thoroughly checking the field data. In addition to the periodic forest cover mapping and growing stock estimation, the FSI also brings out subject-specific reports. In 2011, the FSI released a landmark atlas on the forest types of India, which has been hailed as a work of seminal importance. The atlas depicts the spatial distribution of various types of forests as per the revised Champion and SAIT classification of 1968. FSI estimates carbon stock in India's forest in different carbon pools to report to UNFCCC using information on forest cover, forest types, growing stocks and some information derived from special biomass study conducted by FSI.
A separate study of forest biomass was taken care of, in which the biomass equations for trees for foliage and small wood was created, and forest biomass factors for herbs, shrubs, climbers, deadwood and litters were generated, which formed the basis for carbon stock estimation of India's forests.
In 2013, it released a detailed report on the carbon stock in India's forests and a report on the vulnerability of India's forests to fires. The mandate of Forest Survey of India also includes regular training programs for the personnel of the state forest departments at the FSI headquarters in Dehradun. During 2012, FSI started an outreach program going out to the states to train their personnel on their own ground. The feedback from the states has been extremely positive.
The Forest Survey of India is a storehouse of applied skills as far as the assessment of the country's forest resources is concerned. We are taking up courses every year, about 12 of them, for the state forest departments. There are also about 1 or 2 courses every year we take up at the recommendation of the Ministry of Forests, Government of India. The skills which go into forest cover assessment are GIS, GPS, remote sensing, inventory. And for each of these segments, we have specific well-designed courses run at our institute for the State Forest Department officers. Recently, we have taken a giant leap forward. Earlier, we used to invite recommendations from State Forest Departments to send their personnel to Dehradun to train with us. Now we send trainers from Dehradun to various states in the country who carry out specific courses for the State Forest Department's personnel.
Forest fire is a regular feature throughout the world. In India, it affects thousands of hectares of forest area every year and is regarded as one of the key features of forest protection strategies. FSI has taken a lead role in laying down a comprehensive strategy for dealing with forest fires in the entire country.
FSI has generated reports on forest fire monitoring. We are doing the forest fire monitoring on a daily basis, and the reaction time is 2 hours from the satellite overpass.
This is the website of FSI. Through this website, FSI places enormous information and technical data in the public domain, where it may be accessed by various stakeholders. The website is updated on a regular basis. FSI has a well-stocked library with books and journals on a variety of subjects. FSI also has a map library with several topographic sheets and aerial photographs. Forest Survey of India prides itself on gaining the trust of the entire country. The organization has functioned veritably as the eyes and ears of the Supreme Court and High Courts in matters dealing with mining, urbanization, and boundary demarcation. Projects entrusted to FSI include such matters of national importance as the Aravali project and mining activities in Bellary. For its E-Green Watch program, the Ministry of Environment and Forests reposed confidence in FSI and nominated the organization as nodal agency on behalf of the Government of India to monitor central schemes implemented by state governments.